Welcome to the Tech Savvy Professor podcast, which features two faculty who love tech and like making it part of their work, and I have to say, part of the play, too. I'm Marty Gensius. I'm a faculty member at Kent State University.
And I'm Eric Perry, Program Director at Divine Mercy University.
I keep forgetting the Program Director part that I'm playing right now, which tells you how I feel about this new role as Program Director. I'm getting text messages from students on Christmas. Come on.
Yeah.
You know.
I've been there. I don't give them my phone number.
Yeah, well, I don't know how they found it, but it's made the... I have two numbers, and actually I have three numbers, and I think I'm going to start using the number I never respond to. But if they respond or they call my office, it comes through in my email with a voicemail, so I'm doomed anyway to deal with it. Maybe just more self-control. So we thought we'd make the show an end-of-the-year review. And interestingly enough, for our audio listeners, you won't see this because you're an audio listener. But we're doing this show streaming it eventually to YouTube. So we're recording this as a video, and I'm using some new software to be able to do the streaming with it, and have been playing with that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if you want to see this in video format and some of the links that we'll be talking about during the show, you'll be able to see glimpses of the websites that we're talking about when we talk about these items. You can go to youtube.com/the Tech Savvy Professor, all one word. That is our channel, which I just put together today. So it will be loading, hopefully, past archive material on it. The podcasts will also be there. And we'll be doing our live streams through that channel. And if Eric and I settle on a time and a date, we'll go ahead and set that up so you can be aware if you want to join us live and ask questions. So the task today is kind of an easy one. I didn't do a lot of thinking on this, but it was our end of the year review and kind of reflection. So I came up with 4 questions that we'll work through. And let's go ahead and start with the first question. What tech surprised you this year by being more useful than you expected? Eric?
Yeah, and this one took me all of 30 seconds to decide. Aside from my cell phone, there's really one piece of tech that I have in use kind of at all times. I'm not wearing them now, and I'll get to that later, but it's the Shox headphones that I use. They're the bone induction headphones. We've talked about them here on the show before. I use them everywhere because they're lightweight. They don't go in your ears. They have great sound quality, and I listen to a lot of audiobooks. They're great for music too. So whether I'm cleaning around the house or I'm on the computer, I can connect to multiple devices. So it's usually connected to my phone and to my PC. I wear them constantly. The battery life is pretty decent. They charge fast though, so it's not really a huge concern. So I have the Open Run Pro model. There's an Open Run Pro 2 now. So I've been looking at those maybe to upgrade at some point here in the future, but they've really kind of been put through the test. So I use them constantly, and when I got them, I thought, well, this is neat, something I might use every now and then, but they're so comfortable, I forget I'm wearing them half the time. So I'll get a phone call and hear it ringing and it's not out loud. Nobody else knows I'm on the phone. So it's one thing I feel like was worth every penny because I use it every day. What about you?
I remember finding these things when I asked the chat room during COVID and said, what are these? My ears are getting too irritated from the little silicone things that you stick in them because I'm in classes or on Zoom all day long. And I would switch ears and then the other ear would get irritated. And then somebody suggested bone conduction headphones. And I'm like, well, I'll take a shot at it. They are really pretty remarkable. And I upgrade, I guess you could say that politely, each time a new version comes out. The Open Run Pros are really good. The 2s, I don't know if it's worth the upgrade. They say that they've gotten, quote, they've gone from better bone conduction technology to the next level a bone conduction technology. And I get the clarity. It seems to be a little bit better, but the price is kind of sort of a shocker with that.
Yeah.
With me, I'm the tech that surprised me this year by being more useful than I expected. I'll save this software and hardware for maybe another one of the questions, but it was ChatGPT as an AI source, as it being more useful than I expected. And I've started using it for a lot of ways to generate ideas. I've done presentations on AI, and we'll be doing one at ACA this year called Ethical AI. And we're going to take a look at how LLMs can be used in ethical methods. But from putting together podcast show notes, not knowing how to come up with what we're going to talk about for the different podcasts that I do and getting ideas that way, it's just been a really valuable tool if you know how to use it right. And there are some really complicated by that I mean very lengthy conditional prompts that you can put in to get things out of it that most people treat ChatGPT like a Google search, and that's not what it's about for its usefulness. So even the 4 questions that I came up with today, ChatGPT. I kind of asked, we got two folks talking about important technology, maybe related to academics and teaching. Come up with 4 questions that would be a good end of the year discussion. And so you're getting questions that have been developed through using an LLM. So I put that probably as the answer to that question. That I don't think it surprised me. I think how much I was able to push the software to get what I wanted out of it was pretty remarkable. If I just kept asking the right stuff over and over again, it would give me what I wanted.
Yeah, and I think that distinction's a really good one for folks who are thinking about kind of dipping their toe in the water, that ChatGPT is about doing things. You want it to help you do things. You don't want it to just answer questions. You have Google for that. You want to learn to prompt in a way that it generates things that are useful for you.
Yeah, and I would say if you're going to delve into it, get some basic training on it. I mean, go and look at some YouTube videos on how to start with it, because it'll help you develop broader ways in which you can use it. And then you can just be creative with it. And it's amazing what you'll get out of it. And if you don't like it, as I say, treat it like a bad teenager and tell them, give them the directions again, but with a sterner voice. That always works with teenagers. But it does work with ChatGPT. Now, next question is, what is the coolest piece of tech you've used this year, and why did it stand out?
Well, this is where I threw in ChatGPT, right? So not a whole lot of need to reiterate there. But the other thing I thought was really neat is AI-assisted cameras. I really like it. I recently got I'm not even sure if this is how you pronounce the brand, but it's OBS bot or OBSBot. It's the Tiny 2. And really neat. It's what I'm using right now. The issue is the mechanics broke. So it's not moving on its own anymore. The gimbal, I think, is broken. So I'm working with support to get a replacement. But in using it the couple of weeks it did work, it was pretty fantastic. So I'm hoping support is helpful to get me a new one. But I mean, it can do so many things. The tracking, you can see it up here. So there's tons of different models for this. I have it sitting on top of my screen. It follows and tracks my movements. It zooms in and out. There's presets for it. I think there's some really great ways that you can use this to help engage. There's gesture control. So it's something I really enjoyed using. Recently did a new orientation for our new classes starting in January. I was able to demonstrate some of what the camera can do there, which I thought it just makes things more engaging, and the picture's phenomenal. So I really enjoyed kind of using that. And I've used a couple others in the past, but this one's kind of been the most intuitive. If you're looking for something with an ease of use, I really like this one. So jury's out on support and what that's going to look like. now that I've had an issue with it, but that'll be something I can comment on a future show too.
Yeah, I have a 2, and I just gave it to my son to use because he was using a camera embedded in his MacBook, and we started a podcast called Gear Up and Go, which is about tech and travel. And we decided we wanted to do the recording and the streaming, and he also has one of my microphones now. So I think he agreed to it just so he could get some cool equipment. No, that's not true. I think he's enjoying it. He enjoys doing it. But I have an InstaLink, which is another Insta360, makes the 360 cameras. They make the cameras that, you use for snowboarding that you can put on your head. And they make a variety of cameras, just like OBS Bot does. They have a variety of cameras when you go to the site to look at it. But InstaLink 2 there was an InstaLink 1 that I had. Maybe that's the one I gave to Will. I can't remember. And I might have kept the OBS Bot just so I'd have that device as a different device. So the InstaLink 2 has a little bit larger of a sensor. Again, I think the OBS that you have does 4K if you want to do 4K, and you can do that setting. And it also has tracking. I had a little bit of trouble with the OBS 2, OBS Bot, or whatever it's called, with the software interface. It was just a little wonky for me to be able to do stuff. But I know what you mean by AI assisted, that these things will be able to put up whiteboards. You can target an area in your view, and it will zoom into that when you want it to zoom into it. I really do like the InstaLink 2, and it doesn't seem to have the wonkiness with the software. I can even change my makeup if I want to on it, as long as I'm not running 4K. 4K, you get to see all of my blemishes and age spots on my face. But I could put peachy on and make my lips a little more redder with makeup if I like. So, yeah, that's a very cool piece of tech. And I guess mine would have to be the Apple. Well, I'm struck with this because I'm going to save the Apple Vision Pro for later on. I actually put it down on all 4, and that's not fair. But there's 2 gadgets that I'm working with now, and frankly, I had the software to do this and paid for it for a long period of time and never used it. And one of them is Ecamm. And Ecamm is a studio for streaming. So you can do streaming and you can do group kinds of stuff with Zoom. And we did Circular Firing Squad and started streaming it using Zoom originally. But now switching to Ecamm, you can do so much with this tool. So here's an example, this screen. That's the screen that I work off of. I can pull down and switch scenes so you can make multiple scenes. And there's lots of support software on it. I went to a workshop this summer, Macstock, and we'll switch so you can do different scenes. I'm showing this here in the web for our podcast viewers in the video. You can do various overlays. You can put comments in so you can have live comments going on the stream if you want to do that. And, we can have guests. So right now, Eric and I are recording this through using Ecamm. And I can send this out to YouTube as a live stream, which I will do at some point as we get that all settled with the YouTube channel. Or I can, at the same time, record it on my computer, and then I can go back and edit it, clean up the parts at the beginning and the end, and then repost that on YouTube as a video. So the advantage, I think, of the video is as we're talking about software and hardware, we can show it to those who are watching the video, and you get a glimpse of it on the site. Of course, the links are always in they're always in the show notes, so they're easy to find if you want to do that if you're an audio listener to the program. Do you have any comments on Ecamm, Eric?
No, this is my first time really seeing it, so I think it's really neat. But I know I've watched videos and streams that likely have used this software. Now, having seen us do it, it's really neat.
Yeah, I mean, I found out about it this summer. It is the streamer that professional YouTubers use because it can handle 4K and it can do a lot of, you can set scenes. So if you watch this video, and I'd encourage you to go to youtube.com/at Tech Savvy Professor just to see this video, you can see that in most of it's Eric and I in two different squares on one page. So I've admitted Eric to the Ecamm as a guest, essentially, and created a frame for him and for his video to work in. I can switch from this scene to a scene that covers my monitor that has the website open on whatever I want to talk to, or I can go and switch to solo for Eric or me if either of us go on rather long and it seems fitting to have solo shots on that. There's just a lot that you can do, and the output is really pretty amazing. So I saw this workshop this summer. Frankly, I was busy working on my presentation during the workshop, so I didn't pay attention as much, and felt guilty because I had paid for the professional cost of this and had never used it. So I think sort of as an escape from the frustration of work, I looked at a 20-minute video on how to set up Ecamm. I had to stop it every 30 seconds, but I was able to play along and get it set up. And then from there, it's just, taking apart a toaster. There's no directions to put it back together. You just figure it out yourself. And so it was sort of my New York Times crossword puzzle to figure out some of this. But there is a great support network. You can type in anything in a YouTube search and how do you do this with Ecamm, and it'll take you to a video and the segment of the video that explains how to do it. So I can't speak enough about the product in terms of tech that I've used. And then just this last week, I've added something different. So this is a twofer on tech. It is a Stream Deck, another product that I've had for a while and haven't used. One of the frustrations of Ecamm for me is there are a variety of ways in which you can switch from scene to scene. So from this web view back to the two view, you can use keystrokes, and sometimes they work when they're set up and sometimes they don't. But most efficiently is using a Stream Deck and setting up buttons for each of the scenes. And actually Ecamm rather, it's Ecamm that will provide software templates that you can import into your Stream Deck software, and it's useful for creating and switching from scene to scene. So it's really pretty cool, and it's a matter of push button for me to switch from one scene to another. All the scenes are labeled and set up once I get it set up. So it's a nice piece of equipment. And so that's kind of the coolest tech. And I've just run across that in the last month. Basically, I've started using both of these in the last month or 2 months. So let's do the next question. What tech tool do you think everyone should try even outside of teaching? So even outside of academics? Yeah.
Yeah, I have two. I'm going to start with the second one first because the other one I think is on both of our lists. So 3D printing, I think, is something I'm starting to get into. My son had done a course at school and they learned how to do some of this, and it was a hobby he really wanted to try. And the prices for these have come way, way down. And there's so many uses for them, although admittedly, we've only 3D printed very useless things to this point. We're really just having fun with it. So you can print anything that you can imagine in a 3D space within the confines of what the printer is able to handle. So we've done a couple of controller stands for his Xbox controllers. We've done a couple of fidget toys. And now we're starting to actually design our own stuff and try printing that out and seeing how that works. I think it's really neat. And actually, I found a couple of uses for things I want to design for stuff for my garage. So I have these little things that I want to create, like little risers for to help organize my tool shelves. In terms of this, you can go to the moon. You can do multicolor, different types of filaments that you can use to print things. There's a whole science behind this, but there's a ton of YouTube, TikTok videos that can show you how to use even down to your brand of printer. And what we got was the Elegoo Neptune 3 Pro. It was on sale, I think, for $250 at the time. The Neptune 4 Pro right there is $229. Yeah. So you can go as expensive as you want, but we figured this is a good way to learn. There are free resources all over the place if you want to find templates for things, but there's also quite a few softwares out there that'll allow you to create and generate your own designs. Right now, I'm using the one that came with it. It's called Cura to help build and design some of the prints that we're doing, but it's a ton of fun. Again, there's kind of a science behind this. So we've watched quite a few videos and have kind of a sequence for how we prepare for a print now. And, eventually, if we get into it more, we'll upgrade and look at printing more complex things with more colors and different filaments. But I think it's something that can be a lot of fun. Marty, have you ever done any 3D printing? I was curious.
I haven't. I've had some that I asked done. I got a minute here. I'll let you know. I teach an advanced theories course, and I asked students in the class to take some dimensions of qualities of theories and ask them to rate them. And I put them in basically a geometrical polygon with, I think, 8 points coming out. So X, Y, and Z, and then the center points coming out. And ask them to rate along these, what would it be, 8 dimensions, and of what they thought about the particular theory and in sort of the practicalities of the theory. Is it something like, is this really more counselor generated or client generated? Those kinds of dimensional aspects of the theory. And then took the results of that and gave it to a guy who put it through a 3D printer program and came up with a CAD program and came up with 3D printed plastic polygons representing different theories for me. It was really pretty cool. So, the wow effect was really interesting from that. I don't know if I would have or could have taken that any further. Some ideas about asking clients what they want and then seeing which polygons align with what their thoughts are was one idea. I do, and I'm reaching to get it right now. I have taken used to a 3D printer device, and this is for the new, people say, why do you ever want to turn your computer off? I always turn my computer off. It slips under the new Mac Mini in the corner because the button under the new Mac Mini is on the bottom, and it makes it difficult to be reachable. So some entrepreneurs on Etsy came up with a design to be able to have the button extended to the top, and you just push down on that, and it lifts a lever at the bottom and turns your computer on or off. So I have been fascinated by them. I'm just trying to think of use cases that would want me to, or I would want to have the space to put all that stuff and to be able to use it on a regular basis. That's not saying I don't buy technology that I never use, but and you know that. But let me go back to, I don't know if you have anything more to add on that.
I was just going to suggest for anybody who's interested, go to printables.com and look at the different designs there. Many of them are public access. They're free. You can look at some of the types of things that you can create. But also if you're a creative type or you have creative types in your family that you want to hobby with, this is a great way to do it. It's an awesome skill to learn, and I think a lot of fun for those of you who it kind of sits within your area of interest. I like the mechanical side of it, the preparing the print and preparing the machine and getting it going. But I'm excited to see what types of designs, my son in particular decides he wants to develop and create. So I think it's a good forum for that. Yeah. So printables.com can be something that can, maybe inspire some interest in creativity.
Okay. Why don't you give us your other that everyone should try?
Everyone, especially now, I think needs to try out VR. So MetaQuest now has the 3S model. Got my son one for Christmas, which he promised he would share. They're $300. So now this is a great gateway into VR. And I think those prices will come down even further over the next year or so. Really, in testing out the 3S and the 3, not a whole lot of difference. Materials, you can tell the 3S isn't quite as, it's a little bulkier, it's a little heavier. It's not the same quality of materials, but you don't notice in your play experience. It's just a ton of fun, and I think games is just the place you start, but the whole mixed reality thing is much more real on the 3S than it was in the 2. And in terms of designing your space and kind of, it says immersive experiences you get into there, I think accessibility is a big deal. And the 3S now provides a little bit more accessibility for this. I think it's a ton of fun. You're not limited by your space anymore. Even watching movies and that kind of thing, if you're doing that on your own, is really, really neat. And I think it's much more comfortable than the 2 was. It's going to get better and better. But this is kind of, I think, the chance for everybody to get through the door and see this for themselves now that the prices really come down.
Yeah, I have a 3 and I bought a 3S just to see the difference in it. And the cost was low enough where I could pick up a second set. I'm not using it as much as I am my Vision Pro, and that would have been my suggestion on things that people should try. And I'll go to that in a minute. I have been seeing so many people on Reddit saying, should I buy a Meta 3 or should I buy a Vision Pro? I'm kind of up in the air. And then people will talk about it and saying, well, the Vision Pro is not really that good for gaming. And Meta has got all sorts of games with it, and it's available and it's cheap and it's everything that you'd want out of gaming. Yeah, the lenses are a little bit better, the screens are a little bit better in Apple Vision Pro, but you just don't have the gaming. And I went livid in response to somebody's post because they keep every month or so someone will post this, should I get this or should I get that? And they equivocate a computing device with a gaming device. That Apple Vision Pro is a full, separate, standalone computer that you can use for various productivity, and you can use it for whatever you want to do basically with a computer, or at least whatever you want to do basically with an iPad. Whereas Meta is a gaming device. They really don't have much going on from the productivity arm. So yeah, surprise, there's a price difference between a fully functional, high-speed computer and a gaming device, like equivalent to a Nintendo Switch for your eyes. Now, I agree. I think the 3S, they've done some things with mixed reality that's interesting, but it still doesn't make it a productivity device. So there's some cool stuff that you can do on Meta 3 and 3S that you couldn't do on 2. I own one of those somewhere. But you can do those. You can also do that on Apple Vision Pro. So the mixed reality, if there's anything close to gaming on Apple Vision Pro, it's the mixed reality stuff with games like What If and with Zombie Attack, where they're walking around your house. It's quite a trip. But yeah, two different devices. So I would say everyone should try a Vision Pro. And by I mean try, I didn't mean buy. And I think that is the aspect of the question, that you should try it. And that means going into an Apple store and asking for a demo. And even here, you can, on the homepage, you can book a demo if you want to, I guess. where it'll ask you to sign in, and it will ask you to your location so they can find the nearest store. But there are some wonderful things, particularly the spatial photography and spatial video, that you can do with it. So the reason you go in and try it and set up a demo is because you want to see what the future of computing is going to look like. It's too expensive for most people to buy, but there is a wow experience from being able to use your hands to manipulate what's up in front of your screen and to move things around, and also to look at some of the immersive video that you get with the Apple Vision Pro. So try it, go to a store, ask for a demo or set up a demo. Have you tried one yet, Eric?
Yeah, so we went Christmas shopping and stopped at an Apple store. I happened to be in the Cleveland area.
Mm-hmm.
And they were fairly slow. So, I just asked while we were in there, I said, hey, can I pop this on and give it a try? And, they were like, well, we need you to sign in and do all this and that. But honestly, it took maybe 3 minutes to get set up. I spent about 15 or 20 minutes on it, and they, the gentleman I had working with me kind of walked through how to use it and, some of the experiences. And, I'm glad you mentioned that there's a big difference between this device and something like the Meta device, which really is designed around gaming, whereas, the Vision Pro is not, right? This is about mixed reality. And I think what we're moving toward and what you start to see here, and maybe this is my pie in the sky thinking, is that hardware like we have it now is eventually going to get phased out. Imagine having this headset. You don't need a monitor. You don't need a physical PC. You don't need a keyboard. You have AI that can take all your input from voice or, from mixed reality from your hands. You could have everything essentially in this one device. And I think right now we're just starting to see what the capabilities are. And it was really neat. And now my son took a good bit of the time too, because he wanted, he's really excited about this too. So I didn't get to play as much as I wanted to, but...
So did he get the demo too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And did you have to, because I know you wear glasses, did they have to give you inserts? Obviously, you can't wear the glasses while you're doing that.
Well, I didn't need the inserts. I could see well enough with them off.
Okay.
So it was okay for me. And he's uncorrected, so he was good.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad you had that experience. Again, it's not a tech that people should buy, but it's a tech that people should try. And you can do that. Yeah. Last question. What's a tech trend or gadget you're excited about exploring next year?
So, continuing the trend around wearables. Right now, I actually have one on, and I'm using it to record our meeting now because this is my first test run of it. It's called the Plaud Pin, Plaud. I have the Pin model, but they have a couple of different models that you can try. The Note Pin I have around my wrist right now, because I find that around the neck doing some test recordings, I was getting a lot of scratchiness with my shirt and that kind of thing in the audio recording. But it takes notes, and then we'll organize those notes for you, give you the full transcription, and then even separate voices and who's talking. And then it'll give you a summary if there's tasks or items that you need to be aware of, to-dos, that kind of thing. So I'm giving it a shot. The introduction kind of plan with it is 300 minutes a month. The pin itself is, like I said, $170. Again, there's a few different models of those. But I think it's going to be neat. I'm not using it at work right now. I'm not planning on using it at work right now because there's, the FERPA and HIPAA concerns. So I'm really just using it for my own personal stuff. I'm going to use it for this, potentially for these shows. I'm going to use it to record my own to-do lists, thinking about organizing a chapter book and those types of things. And I feel like being able to say it out loud, I can get my thoughts out better, sometimes better than typing. So I'm going to use it to kind of organize my written stuff too. So 300 for the standard, and then 1,200 minutes, I think it said, for the pro plan, if you want to get into that.
Yeah, if you want to pay $6.60 per month.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can pay annually too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's an interesting cutoff right there. 60 cents.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like an interesting device. I would be tempted to look at that in terms of it. My tech trend or gadget that you're excited to explore next year? I don't have one. I mean, I would like to. I'm going to continue to explore Apple Vision Pro. That seems to be still growing, and there's some more things coming out with AI, and I'm sure there are other things that are popping around in my head that I'd like to do or like to try, but I don't have anything that surfaces right now. I'm still going to spend a lot of time trying to find more uses for Ecamm besides just simply recording, and recording shows. There are other training opportunities that I can use it for. I'm doing some video for one of the professional associations, and it involves, conversations, or it involves interviews. And I'm thinking this is a much better platform than just flipping back and forth on Zoom. So I'll be extending myself on Ecamm and trying to see what new stuff happens with Apple Vision Pro. I have some thoughts about things I'd like to do in there. They have some meeting spaces, and potentially getting some meeting spaces going on a regular basis where people can meet to talk about common topics around AR, VR, and doing Vision Profiles podcast. That's also going to be helpful for that purpose too. So that would be my guess for the next year.
Yeah, and I think there's so much more I think that they can do with Vision Pro. And anyone who listens here knows that you have the Vision Profiles that they can listen to too.
Yeah, and that's we talk about other things besides just the Vision Pro. We talk about what's going on in Samsung, what's going on with Meta, and so even if you're not a Apple acolyte and you're interested in AR VR, we talk about stories related to that. You were going to say another thing, and I cut you off.
Yeah, well, no, just kind of around the same thing. There's a ton of new VR, AR stuff that's on the horizon. So, and some of it's already out, but we're going to see new releases around it. So the Google Glasses, the Ray-Ban AIs, the Galaxy Ring, and other Ring kind of monitoring devices. And then I think the new series of AI-enabled watches. One of them was really cool. I can't remember the brand right now, but a friend of mine is a golfer, and it actually has integrated AI for golfers. I think it's Garmin. I think it's a Garmin watch that helps them determine swing and where they are in the course and how many yards they have left to go and that kind of thing. I think you're just going to see more and more utilization of AI in ways that are going to be more niche and more fun.
Isn't golf just supposed to be an expensive long walk? And not a science, a swing science, I guess.
No. Yeah. I mean, I'm not good at sports.
Yeah.
But, I enjoy the scenery.
That's why I sit in this room a lot, because I'm not good at sports. So, the least used app on my watch is the fitness app or the sports app. Don't generally go there, and when it tells me I've been walking more than 15 minutes and it pops up and it says, would you like to turn this into an exercise? It's like, yeah, okay, fine. Make it an exercise, but don't expect me to do this on a regular basis or that somehow you're motivating me to do it.
Don't hold me to this high standard.
Okay. Well, it's good to be back. We've taken some breaks here and there with the end of the semester being kind of nutsy. Look for us on most of the podcast services that are out there: Spotify, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, and all podcast servers. And look for us now on YouTube at youtube.com/@tech-savvy-professor. And we hope to see folks tune in when it's time to go and when we're time to record. But you can always pick up the video afterwards, and also pick up the audio on any of the podcast servers. All of them will have show notes with linkable links on the things that we talk about. The video, you get to see what we're talking about and not just have the links. So join us in any way you can. Spread the word. We're enjoying talking about it. Tech. We'll get more towards that academic stuff. But this end of the year review was kind of nice, and it always winds up making me spend more money just when the Christmas bills have not been paid for.
Right.
Eric, Anything else to say?
No, this is fun. I'm excited to do this more.
Our bumper music is from Philip Gross, Rast, from the Free Music Archive. Everything you need to know is at thepodtalk.net. Look for our other shows like Circular Firing Squad and the spatial computing show that we talked about, Vision Profiles. There's another one that I've started with my son, if you want a father and son podcast, called Gear Up and Go, about travel gear. But that's it for this episode. Thanks for subscribing to the Tech Savvy Professor.